Welcome to the Inside Slant Podcast, brought to you by Jayhawkslant.com. Here's the staff from Jayhawk Slant, the online leader in KU coverage since 1999.
Hey everybody, this is Randy Withers. Welcome into an emergency edition of the Inside Slant Podcast from Jayhawkslant.com. I'm kicking this thing off from the road, joining Jayhawk Nation from St. Louis, Missouri. We had planned to do a big basketball portal wrap-up here in the next few weeks and a football spring post podcast coming up really soon. But a guy named Tyran Stokes just changed all of our plans. We're pivoting to bring you our emergency edition of the Slant, as just moments ago, the nation's #1 basketball recruit said he is headed to Lawrence, Kansas. So in honor of the #1 player in America committing to KU, we have the best promo we've had in a long time. Sign up right now for jayhawkslant.com and get 3 months. 3 months of the best KU fan coverage anywhere on the internet for just $1. In honor of the #1 player in America, you get all the insight about Tyran Stokes and Kansas men's basketball, as well as the best coverage you're going to find anywhere of Kansas Jayhawks football. Right now, 3 months, just $1. We're going to be joined here in just a minute by Shea Wildeboer to talk about the signing. We're also going to mix in some football, talk a little football recruiting, and wrap up spring practice with our man on the Kansas football beat, John Kirby. But before we get into, before we talk any football stuff, it's time to get right into it right now with the man that everybody wants to hear from. It's time to welcome our guy on the men's basketball beat from the Allen Fieldhouse Suite, Mr. Shea Wildeboer. Shea, big day, man. How are you?
Good. I'm great, man. Huge day. I'm not speechless, but I'm trying to kind of put all this together. But wow, I mean, just enormous day. A lot of people didn't see this coming. A lot of people didn't think this was possible with the Nike contract that he had signed. But huge day for Bill Self and his staff. Kudos to Curtis Townsend, and his relationship with Tyran, which goes back a long time, and maybe one of the biggest days in terms of need, fit, the time you spent recruiting the guy. One of the biggest gets in a long time.
Shea, we're excited to talk about it, but I got to go ahead and bring in our buddy, today kind of an afterthought, sadly, our man on the Kansas football beat and the publisher of Jayhawk Slant, Mr. John Kirby. JK, how excited are you about Tyran Stokes?
Shoot, man, I've helped Shea with some of this stuff along the way. I'm ready to turn my focus to football, but it's huge news. You know me, I'm the football guy, but man, it's crazy, following this, what Stokes has meant to the class and just everybody tracking him. It's kind of been a longer extended period of time, for this to happen, but hey, I'm looking forward. I know I'm the small man on the totem pole on this podcast, so I'm looking forward to going over whatever you have to throw at me football. But obviously, this thing's about basketball, and it's pretty crazy. I know Shea had some things going and playing tonight, and you're in St. Louis. Technology's amazing, man. We all get on. We can knock this podcast out, and we're all in 3 different locations, and hopefully everybody enjoys it.
Absolutely. Let's just get right into this thing. Shea, this is the biggest piece of recruiting news, like you said, and now it's official. Tyran Stokes is a Jayhawk. Tell me what this means for this class and for Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one player that can separate Kansas from other schools next year. 6'7", 225. And Ray, I'm just going to play. He's an absolute dog on the court. Like I would recommend people go look at some of his YouTube highlights. There's no way around it. He's got no filter. I mean, he plays with an edge. He can score from behind the arc. He can get to the basket. He has the mid-range game, rebound. He is the ultimate package. He is hands down, without any question, the #1 player in this class. Kentucky, a lot of people thought Kentucky was going to be the school simply because obviously of the Nike contract. He took the second visit to Kansas, took a second visit to Kentucky. Who knows what happened on that visit? I heard it didn't go like many in Kentucky hoped it would. I've looked back at some recruitments. Obviously, Darren Peterson was huge. Some other guys, but this might be the biggest, simply because you look at what's left in the portal and guys that have committed elsewhere. You look at KU's need to get somebody on the perimeter, a small forward type, and Kansas simply got the best guy in the class, no question, hands down. Last year was Peterson and Devansa. There was some Boozer talk. There is no other 1, 2, 3 talk. He is the top dog. A huge victory for Kansas, absolutely huge, and it doesn't happen without Curtis Townsend. I mean, I got to throw that in there. He was the main guy on this.
Shay, you've been covering Kansas basketball recruiting for just about as long as anybody. When you look down the full list of guys in this class, now that they've added Tyran Stokes, everybody coming in to join him from the high school ranks, where does this class rate among Bill Self's groups that he's signed since he's been in Lawrence?
One of the absolute best. I don't know if I could. Like, I was talking to John about this the other day. That 2000, I think it was 2005 class, Randy, with Julian Wright, Micah Downs, Brandon Rush, Mario. I mean, listen, all 5-star guys, all McDonald's All-Americans. That class is right up there. You bring in a Ty Kinney, who's absolutely obviously good friends with Tyran Stokes, a Davion Atkins, who, when healthy, is about as good as anybody. You throw in Luke Barnett, who's one of the top shooters in the class. Trent Perry. I mean, it ranks up there with one of the very best classes. And I'm interested to see where it ends up when all is said and done. But today is a monumental. I know people on the border are already asking, what's next? What's going on with Victorious Miller and all? But listen, enjoy today. Because days like today in recruiting, these type of victories don't happen all the time.
Shay, you get a breather from the transfer portal, and you've done a great job covering all the news and keeping on top of everything that's been going on coming in from the recruiting trail. Just get us caught up on the transfer portal additions and a little bit of what you think about each recruit and how they can help this squad.
No, I love the guard, Blyden. I think he's going to come in right away, play off the ball, and get to the basket. He's a good shooter. KU needs shooters. Dawes, obviously, is the guy that's going to come in, had great success in his one game against Kansas last year. I think he had his career outing against Kansas, a guy that can score from the inside and score down below. You had the big man, Christian Reeves. There's one thing in this world you can't teach, and that's height. So I love what they've done. And here's another thing. I think Paul Mabia's got a bright future. I do. But I think the one guy you had to bring back was Cole Rosario. I know he's not a transfer portal guy, but you bringing him back, I think, is a huge, huge addition. He struggled last year, Randy, but I think he's got a chance to be a really, really, really good player. So, I mean, it's all good news for Kansas. And today, again, I need to say this again. Kansas fans need to enjoy this day. I mean, this is a huge day for Self and his staff.
Last question, and then we'll wrap up the basketball segment. Shay, give me your overall thoughts on the roster heading into next year as of right now.
I think you need to add a little bit more, maybe a backup guard. As I mentioned earlier, Victorious Miller type. And then, maybe just some pieces like walk-on type guys. I know they had a big man that's visiting now. He's originally from Illinois. He's taken a prep year to school in Connecticut, 7'2", 215. If you can add him, add a Victorious Miller, maybe bring in another, maybe a backup point guard, guys that aren't necessarily going to help right away, but will provide depth. I think you're right where you want to be. The biggest thing that Kansas has done so far is sign Tyran Stokes, and I can't express that enough. Because without him, you're in a world of trouble. I mean, a world of trouble. So all the additions have been great, but the thing that had to happen more than anything else is you had to land Tyran Stokes, and they did that today.
That's Shea Wildeboer, our man on the men's basketball beat, who has been tirelessly working, covering this thing. He's got a couple more stories to write, and then we'll probably take a couple well-deserved days off. Shea, thanks a lot for joining us, man. Great job.
Thanks, Paul. Have a good night.
That's Shea Wildeboer on the men's basketball beat on a huge day for the Kansas Jayhawks. As we mentioned, Tyran Stokes, the #1 player in America, just committed to Bill Self and his squad. Now we're going to shift gears, bringing our man John Kirby on the Kansas football beat to talk some Kansas Jayhawks football. Kirby, I was trying to think of the best way to go to kind of recap or update after spring football. And I remembered your favorite thing in the world is a lightning round. Why wouldn't I just give John what he wants to do? Give that man what he wants. So, John, you ready to give me your thoughts on each position?
Wow. No, actually, I'm really not. I wasn't expecting you to throw the lightning round at me. Okay, hey, here's the deal. Okay, I want to say this before we get going. If I forget somebody, because I was not expecting you to throw the lightning round at me. If I forget somebody, I apologize because I'm going to be going all off the top of my head. So
I
let's
feel like
go.
we need like the little disclaimer from the pharmaceutical ads.
well,
These
well,
comments from John Kirby are non-binding and
I would
cannot be held against him.
I probably would have got a lot more prepared, but I was helping Shay a lot on the Stokes stuff. So all right, let's fire away. Just do it and I'll just kind of BS through all of it.
You know what? Here, that sounds good. Here we go. Let's talk quarterbacks, John. What do we got?
Well, yeah, hey, it's a battle between Ballard and Marshall right now, and I do think Chase Jenkins he does bring something. The transfer from Rice, he's got some speed, but boy, he was hobbled in spring football. So a new guy coming into a system like this, I just think he'll be behind. I think this comes down to Ballard and Marshall, and I put out in one something I wrote the other day. It's just too close to call. I tried to look through at some position groups that guys might have edges. And right now, I just can't predict the quarterback group, but it'll be one of those two, in my opinion.
What about the running back spot?
Yeah, it's been an interesting spring there, Randy, because you had Yasin Willis from Syracuse, who's talented. He had some really good games last year against Tennessee, Clemson, Miami. I'm trying to think who else they played, but he put up some pretty good numbers against good defenses. So maybe the big surprise of that group was Corey Amakri, the true freshman who arrived in January. He had a chance to do some things because you had Justin Thurman was out and Dupree, one of the portal guys, he was out. So the running back group was a little thin, and it gave Amakri a chance to step up and do some things. And I think that's a true freshman who's going to see the field.
Talk wide receivers. What have you heard? What have you seen?
Well, I mean, Cam Pickett's the guy there. Okay.
Hmm.
Najee Cox is a transfer. Nick McMillan from Buffalo. Those guys are going to help. They'll be among the top four. Kubeka, I expect to be in the top four. He was kind of hobbled in the spring, but Randy, the big thing with the receivers is with Kotelnicki coming back. What's the offense going to look like? I mean,
Oh yeah.
I don't see it being a four wide spread type thing. I think it's going to be, he always loves his tight ends. So, I mean,
Hmm.
this might be a 12 personnel. It may be, two and three receiver sets at times. So I think that's going to be one of the big things is how many receivers are on the field.
Offensive line.
Yeah, hey, the big thing here that they lost three starters going into this year,
Yeah.
and that was the big concern for me was depth and are there guys who can step in? I liked what I heard at center. Okay, I thought going in, Amir Herring was a guy who could play center, but Carpenter, the transfer from Oklahoma State, and Kopp both played well enough that I think they're going to man the center spot, which lets Herring stay at guard. So you got Herring at guard, who's a returning starter. I think you got some battles here. I think we're going to see some position battles. I think Tui Kolavata is at guard, and he's battling Connor Stroh, who's from Texas. He started 5 games at Texas last year. You've got Morrow, who started games at Cal. He's in a battle with Tanner. These things are going to go into fall camp. So I think the good news here, Randy, with the offensive line is seeing the depth and the competition that is coming out. I think they're going to be 9 deep in the offensive line. So that's good news to me.
Absolutely. What about the tight end spot?
Well, you got Carson Brune coming back. He's healthy. He went through spring fall football. He looked good. You had two portal guys, Jalen Butler and Carter Moses. Um, oh boy, there's somebody I'm missing there. Cure comes back at tight end. Watch for Jalen Butler, a kid that did not catch a lot of passes, but he's athletic. And I'm telling you, when I was around him, God, he is a good looking 6'4", 255 athletic, can run and jump. So
Oh
keep an eye on
wow.
Jalen Butler, man. He's my surprise.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Talk about the defensive line.
Again, depth. I do like what they they have at depth. Last year, Randy, the DN struggled to get to the quarterback. They just, they had to get to the quarterback, bring in Jalen Todd and Trey Lathan and, corners off the edge. But I think this year, I think the defensive ends are going to be good enough. Brinkley, you got Santiago, Alex Bray had a good spring. He brings some size. Obviously, Leroy Harris. God, am I forgetting anybody? I don't think so right now. But anyways, I do think that those guys on the DN spot are going to be able to get some pass rush. There's again Jim Panagos at the defensive tackle spot. He likes to rotate guys. That'll be led by Blake Harold. Marcus Calvin had a good spring. We kind of got to watch and just see what the deal with Trayvon McAlpine is. What their top portal recruit at all positions was banged up this spring. So hopefully the news on him isn't too bad.
What about the linebackers?
Again, it starts with Trey Lathan, right? I mean, he's your returning leading tackler and, a guy that said he was going to go to the portal. He didn't go to the portal and, stuck around and he'll be the leader of the defense, in my opinion. Definitely the linebacker group. And you got a lot of transfers. You got like 5 portal guys transferring in at linebacker. And the surprise is the guy that I thought would probably be maybe near the bottom of the transfers, Quincy Davis, maybe had the best spring. He's going to be fighting for playing time. You got Jabril Alameen, who is a fast, kind of a fast twitch back or somebody I maybe haven't seen around, a couple years. That type of guy. Bam Crouch led Boston College in tackles 2 years ago. So, I mean, there's some linebackers there from the portal.
Let's close it out with the secondary.
Yeah, probably my biggest concern. You got Todd and Alexander, who probably be your starting corners. Now, Alexander missed a spring because of an injury, so you always hope your starters are around to go through spring. There were some guys banged up in the secondary. So, I think there's going to be some position battles at safety. I think, Taylor Davis is a returning starter, but I don't know that I'm just ready to say Taylor Davis is absolutely going to be a starter. I think that there are going to be some guys that push each other in that safety room, and I think that's going to be a battle that goes into fall camp.
Kirby, this weekend is the first big one for official visitors in the 2027 class. Get us caught up on who's coming in and when should we have maybe some recruiting news on visitor information flowing pretty consistently. And what are your expectations on the numbers on this class too? What should people expect?
Well, yeah, I had a story yesterday, talked about 6 visitors coming in. So this will be the first big weekend. And listen, the guys they're bringing in this weekend, Randy, these guys all have multiple offers. As a matter of fact, I don't think that any of these guys coming in are going to commit this weekend because I think they've got several other visits to take. So, I mean, trying to think, Owen Roberts, defensive end from Illinois, will be in. He just visited a couple weeks ago. Kind of an interesting story. His dad coached Jimmy Lee. Jimmy is the video coordinator at KU, so there's kind of a connection there. Jerron Allen, a DN from Texas, will be in. Noah Renee's a linebacker from Florida. He's already been in. He just told me the other night he is coming. Julian Cromartie, a wide receiver from Texas, got multiple offers. He'll be a guy that's going to take other visits. Mason Oglesby. I mean, listen, this kid's a 4-star tight end from Indiana. He just visited Indiana. Okay. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think he'd make it in on his visit. I really didn't. I figured he'd commit to Indiana and be done. But from everything I've heard, his plan is to be in Lawrence this weekend. And then the guy that is a mystery to me, the closest of all the visitors is Kobe Rhymes, a linebacker from North Kansas City. And I mean, he has offers coming out from everywhere, but he just doesn't do interviews. He doesn't tell anybody, who his leading schools are. So he's kind of a mystery. So I mean, the fact they're getting him on campus in May is a good thing, but he's a guy that could go to several schools. And you asked about numbers, Randy. I mean, this is going to be a small class. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be as exciting of a summer that we always have on the high school recruiting trail. I mean, I could see as low as 12 or 13 high school guys in this class.
Oh, wow. Well, we had to sneak some football in there because that's what Kirby and I always do. And, kind of like he alluded to, we'll have much more coming up in some future podcasts on the recruiting to talk about this roster. And even though it could be a smaller high school class, there'll be plenty of news and insight to keep up with. But we had to get you one today on what is just an absolutely massive day for Jayhawk Nation with the commitment of the number one player in the country, Tyran Stokes, to Kansas Jayhawks men basketball. Remember, in honor of the number one player in the country, we have an amazing promo going right now. 3 months for just $1. 3 months of Jayhawk Slant, the best coverage of Kansas football and Kansas men basketball that you will find anywhere. That'll do it for another edition of the Inside Slant podcast from jayhawkslant.com. For my man Shea Wildeboer, my man John Kirby, I'm Randy Withers. You've been listening to the Inside Slant. We will talk with you again soon. Rock chalk.
This has been a podcast from jayhawkslant.com.